Hi friends, welcome back. Now let us see some details how to add our signal to the carrier. In our last session we have seen how multiple sessions can be merged into a single medium. It's a similar example is when you are in a restaurant or any crowded place chatting with your friend. There's so much of noise all around us, but still we are able to concentrate on what our friend is talking. So there is some filtering action going on. This filtering action in our ear can concentrate only on the voice of your friend, and just voice of the friend is allowed by the brain, or in other words the brain concentrates only on the voice of your friend, and then depending on the alterations in the voice, the meaning of the message is understood. Now how does it happen? How do you make sure that it is only your friend's message? Yes, there is some thing we need to understand. That's where the carrier is. So the voice of each person is unique in itself, and hence if your can be trained to your friend's voice, yes, definitely you can concentrate only on your friend's voice and all other things can be neglected, and that's how we can train our brain. On the same grounds, we continue working with our communication system where we make sure to concentrate only on the carrier which is carrying our message and neglect all other things. So some filtering action is indeed required here. Okay, next, coming to the next part, how to add our signal to the carrier. So this process of adding our message to the carrier is called modulation. So modulation is a process where carrier is made to carry the message. So if you say carrier as a C of t and message as m of t, somehow make sure that carrier is made proportional to m of t. So some property of the carrier should be made proportional to m of t, and that if you could understand at the receiving side and get this inverse proportionality, then our work is done. So at the transmitter side, so some parameter of the carrier has to be varied according to the our signal, which we usually call as modulating input, and the process is called modulation. So what a carrier consists of? Usually carrier consists of a sinusoidal signal. We prefer to have what you say harmonic, particular frequency sinusoidal. So we have the sinusoidal of some frequency, say fc, 2 pi fc into t, and there can be some phase shift. Okay, so sine wave with some particular frequency fc and some phase shift theta c and some magnitude AC. So there are three parameters our carrier is having. One is the magnitude, second one is the frequency, and third one is the phase. So our signal can be made to vary any of these three. So you can vary the amplitude of our carrier signal, we can vary the amplitude of our carrier signal, and such a process is called amplitude modulation. Or we can vary the frequency of the carrier, and such thing is called frequency modulation. Or we can also change the phase, and such thing we call phase modulation. And in general, the frequency and phase are found inside this one. And if you remember our trigonometry, then sine of something happens to be sine of some angle. So in general, the whole thing inside the bracket is called angle, and these two together, the phase modulation and frequency modulation together, can be called in general as angle modulation. So in short, amplitude modulation, very commonly known as AM, frequency modulation, very commonly known as FM, and phase modulation, very commonly known as PM. So when phase is varied, then it appears as if frequency is also varied, because there is some uh, relation between these two, because both of them are finally going to decide the angle. So most common used modulation schemes are amplitude modulation and frequency modulation when it comes to analog signals. So when it comes to digital signals, this plays a major role. So when we are working with various schemes, we just look at, so in all, the modulation scheme, it can modify the amplitude of the sine wave, which we call amplitude modulation. Or you can modify any of this in the bracket, this is called angle modulation. It has got two parts, either it can be frequency modulation or it can be phase modulation. So each one has got its own advantages, each one has its own disadvantages. So depending on the situation, we need to decide which one is to be used for the purpose. More details to follow in our coming sessions. So till then, take care, see you, bye.